Well, we're getting back down into my comfort zone where the soils are muddy and everything's wet. This wetland area has been heavily impacted by invasive exotic trees and other vegetation. We're going to be taking out quite a few exotics in this area, but putting in quite a few more native trees. Tell us what else you might recommend for restoration of the habitat that should be in this kind of soil type.
Well, I think we talked about a lot of the trees when we were down in the swamp. And this is more of an area that's seasonally flooded, but it still has mucky soils or mucky fine sand. So I think you could use some of those same species and probably add in some other things like some understory shrubs. Like there's some native wild azaleas that provide some seeds, and they also have a really sweet smelling white flower in June. Things like the wild coffees are spectacular looking all year round. Some other wetland shrubs, and some more herbaceous species that would provide some seeds and additional forage for wildlife.
Great. Larry, I know we've had some nesting activity in this area, barred owls in particular.
Well, that ear tree over there, unfortunately it's an ear tree, but has been home to a pair of barred owls for the past 4 years. We're waiting to see if we're going to hold off on taking that one out and see if they come back. If they don't come back, we can go, but if they come back, I'd really hate to them.
Great. Well, we've got a couple of windows around the migration where we can work, and again, we're going to follow your recommendation on what's going on, since you're out here so often and you've got a very good feel for what the birds are doing at any given time, and we really do appreciate that feedback.
Well, I really think it's important. It'll be a big step forward if we take some of this stuff that still looks like a golf course or a lawn here now and really start putting in habitat. And like she said, the bush shrubs and stuff like that, and some other trees. And so it's not just such a big mowed area, because we'll get the swamp rabbits will forage in there.
Right.
And the birds will get like the cover, and it'll be a lot better, I think.
Great. Well, that's the objective. We hope to have a much better habitat here 10 years from now than we did 10 years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the pictures of like the wetlands, especially when the skunk vine was over everything. It was just like the kudzu up in Georgia, just everything was coated.
And that's the problem with a lot of these invasive plants, is that they have no natural controls here in Florida, so there's nothing that keeps the populations of those plants in check, or the coverage of those plants in check. And in many cases, it's just devastating to the native foliage.
But it takes that kind of big effort to go ahead and get rid of those in order to reintroduce the proper natives, because we can't start planting unless we get rid of the invasive exotics first.
Great.
Which makes it even harder.
Yeah, and that impact when you first get started can be pretty painful for people to observe. So it really helps to have the partners like the Native Plant Society and the Audubon and the birders when we're going through this process. And again, we appreciate all the effort you've made to put the word out.
Well, I really appreciate that you guys have recruited me. I think that it does good for the city and Mead Botanical Garden, Inc. to be aware of the habitat and the importance of this area for birds and other wildlife in the middle of the city. And I'm really glad that you're including that we've taken that into account. So look forward to partnering with you in the future. Keep it moving.
I'd like to thank Larry and Catherine for being with us today to help talk about the Habitat Enhancement Project here at Mead Botanical Garden. I'd also like to thank you for your interest in the garden, and understand that the city and our partners hope to have a much improved habitat and visitor experience here at the garden in the future as a result of this project.
And if folks are interested in volunteering with the Florida Native Plant Society, the local chapter is the Tarflower chapter. You can find a link to our website on the Mead Gardens website and find out about volunteer projects that we have going on out here.
And if you'd like more information on the project or Mead Botanical Garden, you can go to Mead Botanical Garden's website or the City of Winter Park's Park and Recreation website.
I should probably say something about Orange Audubon then. Orange Audubon has been partners with Mead Botanical Garden for several years. We've been doing bird walks in the spring and in the fall to catch the migration coming through here. And now we're working on this project together. And if you're interested in Orange Audubon, We have meetings every third Thursday of every month at the Lou Gardens at 7 o'clock, and we have good speakers. And if you're interested in things, our website is orangeaudubonfl.org, and you can learn all the stuff we're doing.
And one more thing about the Native Plant Society's work out here. If in October of each year, usually the third third Saturday, we have a big event called Backyard Biodiversity Day, and we have a big native plant sale then, and lots of other exhibits about native habitats and how to improve people's backyard biodiversity. And the proceeds from that plant sale go into a fund from which we add native plants back into Mead Gardens. So it's a big community affair and a good volunteer effort. Thank you.
Great.